Hello, and welcome to another bonus story from White Album 2. These bonus stories are canon content. They're written by Fumiaki Maruto, the official writer for White Album 2, and these are just kind of giving us some behind-the-scenes look at what's going on, separate from what's directly in the game. This one in particular is the Koharu after story, and this occurs after Koharu's ending. So, let's go ahead and begin Koharu, Sun After Storm. Alright, does everybody have their drinks? Great, then let's get this party started. Sugiura-san, welcome to the Kaiou Graph editorial department. Cheers! Cheers! Hey, hang on, Matsuoka, I'm the boss. Why are you ignoring me and taking the lead yourself? Listen, if we let you handle the toast, Hamada-san, all the froth would disappear. In a certain famous izakaya chain, on the 6th floor of a certain building in the Onjuku shopping district. In this commonplace establishment, precisely the sort that a completely disorganized coordinator would frantically pick on the day of the occasion, everyone lifted their glasses together with this energetic toast declaration, not to be drowned out by the hustle and bustle all around, and began their banquet. Now, Kohachi, give us a few words. I'm sorry, Suzuki-san, but would you mind not using that nickname? I don't think it gives a good impression. Come on, don't be so stiff. Look, all eyes are on you now. So this kind of drinking party is extremely common in Japan. Anytime a new employee joins the company, they'll all go out for drinks and food, and it's going to be on the boss's dime. And personally, I think it's really fun. A lot of workers in Japan look at it as an inconvenience and a hassle. It really depends on whether or not you like your coworkers, I think. And so this girl, suddenly given the overly friendly nickname of Kohachi, and feeling a little flustered by all of the attention, nevertheless coughed once to clear her throat, stood all the way up. Everyone, thank you very much for holding this party for me today. And with a seriousness in her face and voice that were completely unsuited to this laid-back venue, she began her extremely stiff speech. And part of this doesn't translate all the way to English, because in Japanese there are different levels of formality you can speak in when using Japanese. And in this part, Koharu is using the super formal version of Japanese, whereas in English it's a little bit harder to translate that. I'm still only a newcomer and a part-time worker, so I won't be of much use, but I want to learn quickly on the job so I can be helpful to everyone, so please, train me as strictly as you can. Thank you very much, and I look forward to working with you all. After ending with a very deep bow, the girl sat back down on the floor and bowed her head slightly once more. To the end, her speech was overly sincere, subdued, with no playing around, altogether lacking in flair, in a way that seemed at odds with her charming looks and mannerisms. So one of the biggest reasons for these drinking parties is for deepening bonds between coworkers, so to speak. And so her being really formal at one of these things is not really achieving the point quite yet. We've got high hopes for you, Kohachi. Lately, none of our part-timers have stuck around for more than a week. Don't say stuff like that, Suzuki-san. You'll make us sound like a sweatshop. What are you talking about, Matsuoka? In times like these, with publications in such a slump, no publishing company could survive without being a sweatshop. Do you have to affirm that so readily, Kizaki-san? But, well, whether it was because there were more experienced members of society as her seniors, or whether they were all just completely irresponsible, the others present let her formal attitude wash right off of them and got swept up in their own lively conversations. I mean, I think that's just normal. If someone's being overly conservative, everyone else is just going to have a good time. The name of this stiff but lovely woman, who seemed somehow to have been received favorably by her new colleagues, was Koharu Sugiura, a first year at Aoizumi University, and, as of yesterday, a new part-time worker in the editorial department of Kaiou, a mid-level publishing company. With her hair in a ponytail, showing more than enough of the innocence left over in one who had only recently turned 20, she sipped her beer, screwing her face up slightly in distaste. So in Japan, the drinking age is 20, so Koharu is definitely not used to drinking alcohol at this point. And Koharu herself, I can't imagine her being a big drinker anyway with her personality. Come on, Sugiura-san, chug it all down. Thank you. Although I was thinking I might switch over to a sour cocktail soon. Gotcha. Here, take a look at the drink menu. So sour cocktails in Japan are very, very good, but you cannot taste the alcohol very strongly, so they're a little bit dangerous. Once the general greetings were out of the way, the food had been brought out, and the time had come for pleasant chit-chat. Matsuoka, the young editor who had coordinated today's get-together, snagged the spot next to Koharu and began talking to her with great energy. But what made you think about getting a part-time job with us, Sugiura-san? Is this the kind of field where you want to be employed in the future? Yes, I have 3 reasons. 3 reasons? She's really thought this out, huh? First of all, as you said, I do have an interest in this industry. I see. Once you graduate, you should definitely come our way, by all means. The Kaiou Graph editorial department had few women, none of them his type. So now that Koharu, their first female part-timer in a long while, and objectively cute, had appeared on the scene, Matsuoka had no reason not to go after her. I mean, I could think of one reason. You shouldn't date people you work with, because it just ends up being a huge mess for everyone. And, well, I want the money, of course. Being a university student is a lot more expensive than I realized. Yeah, for sure. And what's the third reason? The third reason is that I want to expand my world more and more. Your world? Well, all I know right now is my school. My current surroundings are only an illusion of the whole world, right? I guess. In that little world, whenever discrepancies arise, it feels as though the whole world is turned on you, or like you can't trust anything anymore. You end up having sad feelings like that on both sides. You think so? So I made a promise with a friend of mine who lived in that small world with me that we would both gain bigger worlds for ourselves, outside of each other. I thought if I could find an adult relationship that was open and straightforward like the ones I've known, but just a little bit different, that would be wonderful. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to go on about myself so much. What a weirdly mature thing to say. For example, if you make your whole entire world based on one person and that person betrays you, your whole world comes crashing down. But if your whole world consists of a big friend group and a job and a university and a passion, if one of those things crashes, you still have a support structure, you still have things to live for, and that's so important. This is a very nice thing that she just said. Realizing that, at some point, the senior worker sitting next to her had begun to look a little bit lost, Koharu curled in on herself somewhat sheepishly, hurriedly cut off the conversation, and hid her face in the menu in an attempt to gloss over all of it. But, at this moment, there was no helping that for Koharu. Because, for the past year, she had never spoken of that oath, and certainly never been able to just spill it out with an ambiguous smile. Winter of her 3rd year at Hojo High School, with graduation only a few weeks away. That was a tough time for her. That was definitely a tough time for Koharu. Most people, reluctant to part with their friends, would be dedicating their minds to hopes for trips and the like, but Koharu was on a bed of needles the whole time. Misunderstandings gave rise to further misunderstandings, and in the end, it was all overwritten by the truth. She betrayed her best friend in the event. and ultimately, she betrayed her best friend with her own resolve. She was exposed to attacks out of ill will from those around her, and ultimately, she exposed herself to that ill will deliberately. She lost everywhere she belonged, except for one place. And ultimately, she offered everything up to that one place and sought it out. That was why, at present, Koharu Sugiura was a first year at Aoizumi University. That's so rough. And still to this point, yes, it's not very bro, not very friend-like to go after someone who your friend liked and got rejected. But at the same time, it was such a small crush. It's not like they actually dated. So Yada-san getting so mad at Koharu and just barring her from the friend group, that was dumb, in my opinion. She didn't deserve such a harsh punishment like that. She could have been a second year at Hojo University, but she and her friend, though they still acknowledged each other mutually, differed both in university and in school year. Yeah, I know what you mean. I had something happen like that once. And so Matsuoka, completely failing to understand Koharu's grim resolve, still attempted to appeal to some non-existent sympathy and shortened the distance between himself and Koharu yet again. Wow, that's wild. You've got a pretty solid way of thinking, huh? Oh no, I wouldn't say that. He was following the sort of method one learned from one's respected seniors. If you want to take advantage of a girl's troubles to make a pass, the first step is to affirm everything. To the letter, which was a brave move in its own way. But whether that bravery reached its target, Koharu, was extremely doubtful. Yes, it's true, but that's such a sneaky thing to do. Affirm the girl's troubles and then kind of swoop in, I can't just see you as some stranger. I'm here to give advice, so ask me anything at all. Oh, and do you think I could start calling you Koharu-chan, like Suzuki-san? That's so forward and direct. Then, just as Matsuoka was attempting an even more overbearing attack, I don't think you better call her that, Mat-chan. Sitting across the table from them, Suzuki, the only woman present apart from Koharu, muttered meaningfully. What? What do you mean, Suzuki-san? Well, Kohachi, she may look serious, but in fact, no. She has an extremely serious boyfriend, exactly as she looks. The one who choked on their half-drunk beer in response to this bombshell statement was not Matsuoka, to whom it was ostensibly directed, but rather the one to whom it was actually directed. Koharu, in other words. Oh, poor girl. A boyfriend? Really? Oh, yes, a very bothersome boy. He's got a job, he's completely inflexible, and he certainly wouldn't hold back against his superiors. You might throw down the gauntlet at first, Mat-chan, but he would turn the tables on you with a lecture, and then the fight would be settled. Wait, that sounds weirdly like that perfectionist junior of mine who always gets on my nerves. Huh? And Matsuoka, suddenly having an excruciatingly clear idea of what Suzuki was getting at with her metaphorical speaking, gasped and whirled around to look at Koharu. Suzuki-senpai, why would you say something like that without any proof? Koharu, completely ignoring Matsuoka, retracted her admirable attitude completely and simply glared coldly at Suzuki. The people around Koharu are always doing this, like Nakagawa-san, the woman at Goodies, who was always like, you like Haruki, and now it's Suzuki-san who's like, you're dating Haruki. The people around her are always exposing her love life. On top of her own inflexibility, this strong attitude, with its tendency to incite enmity in others, had hurt her any number of times, but where that was concerned, Koharu would never feel any regret. Well, I have 3 reasons, you see. Are you trying to start a fight? You are, aren't you? Huh? Huh? Unable to keep up with this suddenly explosive atmosphere between the women, Matsuoka looked at each of their faces in turn, but it was clear he was no longer anywhere near their field of vision. First, graduate of Hojo High School was written on your resume. But I was 3 years younger, so we were never in school together. Second, no one has said anything yet, but you definitely just indicated a very specific person. And third, I saw you yesterday. You were having an argument with Kitahara-kun on the platform at Onjuku Station. Perhaps you decided to show up at his same workplace unannounced, and then he scolded you, and it turned into a fight. You certainly are the type to go too far and make a big mess out of things when you think too hard. The matter has already been resolved, so there's no longer any need for you to worry. That's awkward. Could you imagine someone seeing you on the subway and seeing you fighting with your lover? To be sure, they had wound up in a massive fight the night before, but for two people who were as mutually inflexible as they were, this was an everyday occurrence. Winter of her 3rd year at Hojo High School, with graduation only a few weeks away. Koharu had met a university student 3 years her senior, fought with him, worked with him, somehow been unable to get along with him, somehow found herself getting interested in him because of that, fallen in love with him before she knew it, and at some point wished that she could stay by his side even if the whole world turned against her. And so she realized for the first time what an inflexible woman she was, from the bottom of her heart. That man was, and always had been, Haruki Kitahara. Oh, so sweet, so cute. Although I don't think it's normal to fight as much, I think they both need to work on themselves and be able to discuss things without coming to a fight. But yes, I'm happy for them. Koharu's inflexible lover, 3 years ahead of her at Hojo High School, her senior at her former part-time job, and, as of yesterday, her senior yet again in the Kaiou Graph editorial department. Kitahara again. How many more times does he have to get his hands on the things I can't? Oh, poor guy. Well, that's mostly just you getting what you deserve, Machan. But in this case, I suppose there's a little room for pity. Reeling from the truth and impact of this new part-timer's words, Matsuoka was crushed by an even deeper sense of defeat, picked up the sake that had arrived at some point, and chugged it in one gulp. Ooh, you gotta be careful chugging sake. That'll really knock you out. His voice and attitude had lost the light of one aiming for his prey, and now his eyes were the clouded eyes of a dejected loser, his voice hoarse and strained. Oh my god, this poor man. I mean, to be fair though, you shouldn't be seeking after a coworker like that. It's not healthy to date where you work. And for Koharu and Haruki, it's also not good to date where you work. That son of a bitch. Always the first to complain about private life being brought into the office, and yet off he goes to work so gracefully with his girlfriend waiting on him. You say gracefully, but he showed up 2 hours earlier than you. You're right. That's why he skipped out on this drinking party, saying he was going to be out collecting material tonight. Damn him. It wasn't hard to imagine that, had Haruki been present, the current state of affairs would have been even more difficult to bring under control. Yeah, can you imagine the gossip and the, oh my god, you guys, if Haruki was actually there? I would like to make it clear that this job is completely unrelated to my private life. Koharu continued with her usual stiffness, in a tone that did absolutely nothing to relieve the gloomy atmosphere that had settled over the group of young people. I came here to work. While I am working, whoever I may or may not be dating is completely irrelevant. Well, that's what everybody wants to say in the beginning, but it ends up being a mess. You may say that, Kohachi, but even if your initial intention is to do your job, can you be absolutely certain that you won't gradually start to show your true colors or start getting flirty at work before you know it? Yes, I'm certain. If you must insist upon doubting me, then from now on I won't utter a word to Haruki-senpai while we're in the workplace, so please be at ease. I don't think that's a viable work method. It's not, and this is why dating coworkers is a bad idea. Koharu Sugiura, the new part-timer at Kaiou. This tactless girl, with her inflexibility, her strong, inflammatory attitude that had hurt her any number of times, and her complete lack of regret where that was concerned, drained the last bit of beer remaining in her glass, and for some reason ordered a shochu on the rocks, rather than the sour cocktail she had mentioned earlier. So shochu is a Japanese liqueur, and it's very powerful. And again, especially for people who aren't used to drinking, this is going to knock you out. I do not recommend drinking this unless you want to get totally smashed, or you have people who can take care of you. Hey, so what's the true story here? How am I supposed to answer a question with no subject? I'm talking about your relationship with Kitahara-kun, obviously. You can tell me everything, every single concrete minute detail. No need to keep any secrets. That would serve no purpose for me. Also, it's redundant to say minute detail, isn't it? Kohachi, are you sure you're not actually Kitahara-kun's clone rather than his girlfriend? Ignoring Matsuoka, who had long since withdrawn from Koharu's side and was now sulkily pouring himself a drink, it was now Suzuki's turn to go into inquiry mode. When did you meet? Where? You weren't in high school or college together, right? So was it in cram school or at work or... How many times do I have to tell you that I keep my work and private life separate? This is a drinking party. It's completely private. As a matter of fact, work talk is out of bounds. I don't believe that's a legitimate argument. It's kind of true at these Japanese work party or drinking parties that you're really supposed to be open and you're not supposed to bring up what happened at the parties at work. However, that doesn't mean you can go crazy. You do have to be careful because people do gossip. But for the most part, it's very chill. In the beginning, Koharu had intended to remain silent, but her nature limited her ability to feign ignorance for too long, so she wound up responding to every little thing. Fine, at least just tell us when you met. Say, before the summer of 2 years ago or after. Why are you mentioning such a specific period? Well, there's a certain immature young lady who is just dying to know whether you've known him longer than her. Immature young lady. She's definitely talking about Mari-san. While Suzuki conversed with Koharu, she poured beer with her left hand and fiddled with her phone with her right hand, sending somebody an email. This was a level of multitasking even beyond what she did at work. Regardless of how private the occasion is, there are things one talks about readily with other people and things one does not. I see. In other words, the start of your love affair with Kitahara-kun was so dramatic and romantic that you couldn't possibly tell anyone. Please don't let your imagination run away with you. They're so cute, by the way. Koharu being the closed-off, shy, sort of angry little girl. And then, of course, Suzuki-san, who's like this older, gossipy woman. Koharu was extremely curious to know the recipient of this email, but she was also so serious about everything that she couldn't apply it. So even though her eyes were drawn to Suzuki's phone, she focused on nothing but the conversation. Oh, geez. Okay, so we're going to stop off there. We finished the first half, and we will come back to the second half next time. So Thanks so much for being here with me on this reading of one of the White Album 2 bonus stories, and I'll be back with the finale next time. So until then, hope you take care. See you!